Hi, this is Mark. Congratulations. You have found this amazingly awesome show. Chances are you're listening to it right now on whether it's iTunes or Stitcher Radio or some other mobile app that allows you to stream this amazingly awesome show to your ear holes. And I can't stress how awesomely amazing this show really is. But did you know that you can also catch the latest episode of this show on the Tangibound Network? That's right. Go check out tangiboundnetwork.com. You can look them up and you can listen to it right there. It's even mobile friendly. What more could you ask for? Which means you can pull it up on your iPhone or your Android, even your Windows phone. Yeah, who has one of those? But still, point remains, you can do it. You can do it. Check it out, tangiboundnetwork.com. Listen to this show, the latest episode, every time. Check it out.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Crazy Life. I'm Brian, joining me as usual is Henno.
Howdy.
No Jen this week, and actually, real quick, business, as I like to say over on the Salty Language podcast. Jen's actually going to step away from the show for a few weeks because of, being overwhelmed with wedding stuff. I'm actually going to read what she sent to us to read for the show.
Nice.
And it says, "Hi folks, your hostess with the mostest has to take a few week hiatus. I'm in a really good place mentally, but to make sure I maintain, I'm going to focus for a bit on balance. You are, as always, in great hands with Brian and Henno, the insert your own adjectives here, of the podcast world. When I return, I will make sure I fill you in on the incredible journey I will have been on. Love you all, and know I am always only a tweet or email away. Keep breathing and wiggle your toes." And don't shut off the podcast now. We're not done. We're just like, wow, that was a short one.
Cool, done. Sweet, we're out.
Nice. Scrub the rest. Like, wow, what is this, a tool track? There's like, it shows like an hour and a half, but there's only like 2 minutes of substance. Jeez. You remember those in the 90s? Like how many albums had like that to where a song was like 10 minutes, but it was like 2 minutes of actual music?
Yep.
Man, those drove me crazy. Anyway, we'll save that for our upcoming music podcast, though.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, we still got to do that.
Yeah, we do. I wasn't even meaning that. I was actually just kind of making a joke that, like, you and I were going to start a music podcast.
Yes, but that just reminded me that we got to do that.
You're right.
The Music Moods podcast.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about it. Why don't we could go ahead and say it here, and we can start kind of putting something into motion with it.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, we were thinking that, whenever people get into moods, like I've talked before on the episode, like after Scott Weiland died, about how, when I get into like deep pits of depression a lot of times, that there's kind of two ways that I go musically. Either I look for music to just kind of wallow in that sadness and whatnot, or I look for something to where I'm like, I need a life preserver or a hand to kind of pull me out of the mood a little bit. So we were kind of talking about it, and it's like, what do you play when you have those kind of, situations, or just to improve your mood or whatever? And it doesn't have to be like full playlists or anything like that, but just maybe give us a song. And, maybe I'll throw a playlist together on our YouTube page when we're all done.
And also the songs that when you are in the mood and you don't need to come out of it,
Yeah.
you're actually okay with wallowing in it a little bit.
Right.
Because I have those songs too.
Absolutely.
You know?
100%. I've mentioned before. It's like I told Heno once before, can't remember if it was on the show or not, but I was like, I can always kind of tell where I'm at emotionally, because if I'm really like, I have to listen to like Down in a Hole by Alice in Chains, I know where I'm at. That's a really good measuring stick for, and I love that song. I'll listen to it anytime, but there's just it gets like, I feel a certain way sometimes when I listen to it. Like there's sometimes when I'm listening to it and I'll be like, yeah, I get it, man. I get it. You know?
That's a great way of putting it. It's like, you have your musical barometers, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'm really into this right now. Okay. I know where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah. And, you know, like I said, and I've known, you know, like the ones that stereotypically a lot of people would go to, like, you know, The Cure or the Smiths or something like that, you know, they kind of have this affinity for when they're feeling down or whatever, or they have like those breakup songs or, you know, just sad songs. And, but, you know, some people don't. Some get in those moods. And there are a lot of times to where I'll kind of feel down, and the first thing I want to do is like, I got to get something. I got to get some of my favorite songs. You know, I got to listen to, you know, For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica, and it's not because it's a sad song. It's like, I just got to get that because that gets me energized a little bit so that I don't fall down a hole, you know, and you know, so yeah, whatever it is like that. And it could be for any reason, like, you know, just, you know, a song that you just really kind of feel sometimes that is a go-to. It's like you keep it in your pocket for when you're feeling this way or that way, you know, like, you know, send it to us and, you know, maybe give us a little description.
Blurb.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and hopefully we'll get enough to kind of do a cool podcast in the future where we can kind of throw them all together.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, me too. This, you know, gives us a reason to talk about music too, which we dig anyway. Yep. So how was your week, Heno?
Well, I'm
I heard it was pretty uneventful.
Yeah. But we'll get to that.
My gimmick.
I'm ripping it off.
Yeah, Tony's listening right now going, "Oh, I'm calling a lawyer."
Yeah, it's my week is actually done because I'm going to go to Atlanta for the weekend, which I'm really looking forward to.
Wow,
just a little end of the year, get out of town, go hang out with a friend, and just go to a city. I need city energy every once in a while, and not Boise, Idaho. It's just...
Now, I don't understand, because it seems like Atlanta and Boise would be exactly the same.
Yeah, yeah. You know, they're college towns.
Right. Is there a giant, like, Coke factory in Boise? And you get a lot of white stuff, but probably not Coca-Cola.
So I had it felt like such a short week because I only worked 2 days with my coworkers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 'cause I was off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I worked my usual Sunday, and then I worked on the holiday. So I was by myself those 2 days, and you know, it's kind of a free for all. But so it's been a really odd, like my mental place is out of whack because of it. It's amazing how that, like, just putting, like, we have a newspaper that comes out every Wednesday, and when I first switched from Monday through Friday schedule to the Sunday through Thursday schedule. When Wednesday, the paper day came out, that felt like the middle of the week, but it wasn't for me.
Right.
It was actually, you know, it's funny how that those kind of things can mess with us.
Yeah.
You know, it was very apparent this week, but the other thing is I'm not leaving until like my flight's not until like 3 p.m. tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's weird.
And I'm leaving from Sun Valley, which is like, I can literally walk to the airport. I mean, I have walked back from the airport before because it's that close. It's, you know, like I go 2 blocks and I'm looking at the runway.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's it's great. Usually I have to drive to usually I fly out of Boise because it's just cheaper, and that's a 2-hour drive.
Right.
So, and I just decided, because the feels like he must sacrifice and dedicate himself to work, Henno would work a half day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no,
Nice.
no, I'm having a day off.
Right.
I'm, and it's going to be great. But, yeah, so, Saturday, I'm glad I feel a lot better right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always a little bit, I'm not worthy,
Yeah.
but I'm rarely, you're a complete piece of garbage and worthless.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, in the time I've known you, you rarely ever, like, it's weird because, like, if I kind of, like anybody, you can kind of pick up tones sometimes, and if it seems like you're moving that way, and, it's really noticeable with you because you don't tend to live there,
Exactly. Yeah. And everyone that has listened to me on, this podcast knows that I am half glass full. That's just who I am.
Right.
It's, and I like it that way.
Right. Whereas I'm half glass full of poison. So
use that line often?
No, actually.
Really?
Maybe. Yeah.
Ching.
Yeah.
That's what I forgot about pitching a softball.
Mm.
It's not a whack. It's ping.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I forgot.
That's
Ping.
I love baseball to no end, and it's the hardest thing for me to do when I watch college because the ping of the bat just isn't the same.
Yeah. When I walk the dogs down to the school and I just hear it, I'm like, it just doesn't sound right.
They had a game out on Xbox that was made by EA Sports. It was a college baseball game that I loved. And the one year that they made it to where in the sounds, you could actually turn the sound from the ping into the crack of a bat. And I was like, yes! It's the dumbest little thing, but it made me so happy.
Get it where you can.
Yeah, right? Like, I didn't have to hear ping every time I hit the ball. It was, that nice, warming crack of a bat.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, I've derailed us here.
Great. So I sat, I kind of worked a little bit. Yeah, I did some deliveries on Thursday and Friday, some cars, and it kind of took a little bit out of me, and I helped a friend, which was really great with some computer stuff. And actually, he's in school to become basically a drug and alcohol counselor. And he hasn't been on a computer for a long time, so he just needed some assistance. And I actually he came over just tonight earlier, and helped him out with getting some of his assignments up online. And I was mentioning the podcast, because he is actually doing like his practicum, or his practical hours at our local. We have one. It's called the Walker Center. It's a rehab facility. And so he's down there doing all of his hours down there. And, he was telling me about how just, talking to all, sitting in these groups with these people that are just, they're everything from completely raw to, starting to see the light, that kind of thing. And he sees the progress of people in recovery and, how inspirational it is. And then I mentioned the podcast, and he's like, that this is my night that I get to, get a little cathartic and that I look forward to. And he's just like, oh yeah, where, how do I listen to that? And which is really cool. And I was like, John, you should come on one of these days, when you're done.
Yeah.
I think you'd have a lot to add to the show, just a different perspective, like one of these days come on and just be a guest.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be cool.
But, anyhow, I digress yet again, cause I never do that.
Right.
So on Saturday, I decided I'm going to do music. I'm going to sit down at the computer and I'm going to do some mixing. And I sat down after taking care of some business with the dogs and all that kind of stuff. And, things went pretty well. I was like, okay, yeah, this is coming together. And then it didn't. And it was, I don't know what happened. It was just crushing.
Yeah.
I was like, I quit. I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I am no good. I'm horrible.
Yeah.
And it's a weird place for me to be.
Yeah. I can fully understand it because I've done that with art and at various times to where I'm working on something, it seems to be going well, and then I basically hit a spot where nothing was good enough, and then it's, why are you doing this? And, it kind of started me on a spiral. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was like one of those where, and I'm not the type that's going to suddenly run with it and post it on Facebook. I quit, It's like, there's a part of me that wants to,
right.
But I know myself better, and, restraint of tongue and pen.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt it in a way that it's just visceral. Like, it's real, like, it was like, wow. And then I started having computer problems. And so the one thing that I'm at a technological, what do you call it? Like a no man's land. Mm. There's new software to use.
Yeah.
But the old software files don't necessarily convert to the new.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And some of my plugins that I use for, sweetening up the sound, those are no longer, I can't even use them on the old platform.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like, it's this horrible place to be in. And so this is the last project that's in the old one, and then I can switch over to the new one.
Yeah.
Well, when I'm at the place of just zero, because that's how I felt, I was like, all right, who cares? Let's just change this. But I lost something. I gotta backtrack a little bit. Once I had the you suck, you can't do anything right, first thing I wanted to do is I actually got into action and tried to shift some things around in my studio space, but my head wasn't in it. And so I would do things like knock something over and put a big scratch in it and then just lose my cookies.
Right.
And then I started having little temper tantrums.
Right.
And I literally picked up a drum. I'm looking for a new office chair, so this was the target. this drum stool that I sit on that I've had for, I don't know, 16 years.
Yeah.
I literally destroyed it. I just bashed it and threw it into the front door and put a dent in.
Henno, when you want something new, you don't have to completely obliterate the old one.
Yeah. You can just go get the new one.
Just go get the new one. Yeah.
And like I told you, I was telling you the chat message, I literally, first I was trying to find a better outlet than breaking stuff. So I yelled a lot, which I like to do.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. It sends dogs running and that kind of stuff. But I literally yelled myself hoarse. I had no more voice left. And then I lost it. And so then that's when I was just like, okay, I'm not doing this because I literally, I just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. That's how bad. I'm just like, you have no idea what you're doing. Why are you even doing this? And then I said, who cares? Let's try and convert one song into the new platform. And it was just a nightmare. I mean, I had to, I opened it up and most stuff was okay, but there was, the stuff didn't work. It had to be replaced.
I've been there, like with graphic design programs, like when they'd upgrade something somewhere and, it wasn't fully compatible. So it's like, oh, this font won't work. And it's like, but if you go ahead and convert it, it throws the spacing of everything off because this one font isn't there anymore. So it converts it to something else. And when it would do that, like I said, the spacing of how I've laid out the page is totally different and wrong. And it's like, if I convert it this way, I almost might as well just start from scratch. And that's so frustrating. Yeah. I've been there with these stupid things.
Yeah. And then some software worked, some didn't, this pop, blah, 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 restart, all that stuff. And eventually I'm just like, walk away.
Yeah. Yep.
It's time to walk away. But when I did walk away, it was a really weird feeling. I walked outside and pulled some weeds, and I started making some dinner. And Sharon was doing her big annual parade up in Ketchum, so she wasn't around to enjoy all this stuff, this lovely display of humanity.
Right.
I think the reason I'm also very down about it is because we're talking luxury problems here.
Yep.
And that's the fact here.
It is. Yeah. It's not something that, like, if you took that and isolated the problem, your day would go on without it. It's not something that's stopping it's not stopping you from living life or being whatever. I mean, other than it's frustrating because it's a creative outlet, And
you just nailed it for me is when I sat there in the kitchen, I literally looked across, the house to my workstation, and I was like, I don't want to know you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go there. I don't want a relationship that's like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to be in an abusive relationship where I get no joy from it.
Yeah. No, I totally get you. That was actually the last time or when I switched my major in school, I was going for illustration, and I had to stop for a short time. And part of it was that what I realized was after I stopped, that I realized how much I wanted to stop. And how good it was for me that I stopped, because I was doing that all the time. Every week I'd go to work on my assignments, and it wouldn't come out the way I wanted it to. It wouldn't. I'd get frustrated, and sometimes I'd tear up what I had worked on. I'd get mad. I'd yell at it. I'd cuss like crazy, and after a while, like, I was just like, I'm getting nothing out of this.
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing this to myself? And I'm paying money to do this. Like, I'm paying money to just frustrate myself all the time. This is stupid. And then, something else came up, and I stopped for a little while anyway. But yeah, I get you.
Yeah. And unfortunately, as well, this is most of us humans do this. We future cast and we take things to their extremes, and I literally started going okay, what if I just got rid of everything and just quit? Because I kept saying it over again. That's it. I quit.
Yeah.
I quit. I can't. And this is, all right. Am I being a perfectionist? No, I have two little things I want to do. I have two small things that I want to do. And they're actually, it's not me being a perfectionist. It's actually kind of a core, like, it's something I need to know how to do.
Okay.
If I can't do this, and here's the worst part about it. This isn't about doing something. I have to hear something. I have to be able to hear it and then apply the tools. Just like you have to be, whether you have to see something and then, see what's wrong with it and then correct it. I need to be able to hear how to make this sound like it's supposed to sound. And if I can't do this, I have no business doing this.
Yeah, I get you. Okay.
And so it was one of those, it was like I know this is just a hobby, but it's more than a hobby to me.
Yeah,
it's something that I love.
Yeah.
And to hit a point where I'm like, maybe I can't.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I can't.
Right.
And then I started going into the whole thing about, like, because there's a lot of projects that I'd love to help people out on right now, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, do I want to sit down and do things that bring me joy? That, that's just me writing my own music and just turn this back into what it was as a hobby.
Yeah.
And a love, and forget about all the other aspects of it. And that's, and I'm not necessarily going there, but that's where my brain went.
Yeah. But and the other side of that, though, is maybe that's not a horrible road to go down. 'Cause maybe that'll kind of rekindle, things for you, to where it's like, you're kind of removing the stress of the other off of you, to where you're just doing it because it's something you like. It's like, our friend Jeannie, she bakes, and it helps her, get rid of stress, and people have asked her different times, why don't you have a business? you know? And she's like, because I enjoy it, you know, and she, you know, it's like, and it makes so much sense. It's like, you know, if you monetize something, or not even monetize, but if you're doing favors for other people, or you have that stress of, I want it to be right. I want it to be, you know, live up to their standards and my standards for them. And, you know, whereas if you're just making stuff for yourself, it's a different feeling, you know, it really, you know, so maybe that's what you need, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. And I don't know either, because I have this inordinate sense of obligation, and it was actually removed from me on Saturday where, you know, I all I could hear was Dave saying, you know, if you don't like it, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We don't have to have this. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But then there's the other voice inside, you know, that's, you know, somebody saying, well, can't you just do something with it?
Yeah. Right.
And I go, well, right now is not the time to make that decision. And neither is it. Yeah. That's where I left it. It was like, okay, let's get in the bath and play some World of Tank Blitz. That's actually that level. Let's get clobbered by some noob teams. That sounds enjoyable compared to what I just went through.
Well, you know, it's funny because like when I would go through that stuff with my art, a lot of times, Jen would tell me, you know, she'd look at me and be like, you need to walk away from this. She's like, why don't you pick up your Xbox controller? And she's like, play, you know, football or a shooting game, or, you know, just get this out of you this way. Instead of, you know, destroying something, take it and go play Grand Theft Auto and just be horrible in that game, or play football to where it's violent. You know, you can go hit guys and maybe you can live it through, you know. And so, yeah, I get you on that. And it's true. The biggest help there is the walking away, because it's a toxic environment at that point. And like you said before, you have to remove yourself sometimes.
Like,
just, you know,
that sucks for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like it was like, no. That's not the toxic environment. That's no, that can't be. But it's like, but if it is, it is.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want it to be, you know, like a relationship. You don't want it to be toxic, but sometimes you look at it and you go, yeah, I got to quit lying to myself here. This isn't good. And I have to figure out how to fix this. And sometimes that first step is just a step away, you know.
It was, and it was the best thing to do. And you know, you know, reflection is part of my life. You know, I do want to make sure that I you know, as much as I want to live in the moment, I also want to make sure that you know, I have a vision for myself that's actually realistic, that I'm not putting myself into bad places.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and I'm sitting there going, okay, how, you know, would you rather spend a whole night making music for somebody else and not getting any money for it, or just make music for yourself?
Right.
Because
at the end of the day, you can look at things and go, do you have to make music for money? No, you make enough money. I'm assuming, right? You make enough money from your job.
I have a day gig, exactly.
That you're okay. You don't have to do. It's a stress you don't have to have. So if you want to just make it a hobby, it's okay. You know, like it doesn't. You know,
nothing changes.
Yeah, you're not going to lose your house or you know anything like that because you're not taking on gigs, or you're not writing songs for people or whatever. So you know, I think when it's that way, you know. Like I said, you know, if nothing else, worst case scenario, you try it and you go to that and go, well, this didn't change anything either. Or you could go, maybe, you know, you walk into it and go, yep, this is exactly what I needed to do. You know, it might be for the best. I don't know. Or maybe you just need to step away from the other for a little bit, you know, and then maybe later on you'll be like, you know, I feel, you know, kind of like recharge your batteries so that you can be of service to others.
Yeah, that's it. But it's still a scary thing for me. Yeah. Those are scary choices to make.
Oh, definitely.
Because of the battle in my own head that goes on. And the amazing thing about it is I did step away from it. And then just last night I sat back down, we were doing Moving the Needle, and I had some time beforehand because we put it off till later. And I said, well, why don't I sit down and see what's going on? And I started making the changes from a technical standpoint, the software changes, And actually there's really cool stuff now that I can do. And I had new things that I'd picked up over time that I was like, oh yeah, I'll use that with the new software. And I'm like, oh wow, now I can try that, and that's that little bit of, priming the pump a little bit.
Sure.
And some of it was also inspirational. So I have continued to ride my bike.
Good.
And it's been great. I did it last week. I did, a ride when I was doing this car stuff. I had, it was like, you know what? I got about a half an hour before the sun goes down. I'm going to, do a quick ride. And I did a ride. And I even was I had a ripping headache one day, and I almost went home, and I went, no, go to the gym. And I went and spent some time at the gym. And while I had my headphones on, I heard a couple of songs, and I was like, that sounds like it's supposed to sound. Wait, can I make it sound like that? And I came home and I sat down, and I haven't listened to it yet since I did this last night, but I think I nailed it.
Awesome.
Like, I think I honestly nailed it, because I think I stopped caring and went, you know what? Yeah. Do it when you want to do it. Do it when you're inspired to do it.
Yeah.
Don't pressure yourself, because nobody's pressuring me except me.
Yep. That's
and
what
I
got
am my
to
worst critic.
Yeah, I got to that point with, because the reason that I really don't produce much art-wise anymore, and I 100%, it's no one else. It's all me. And part of it is, like I stare at, a blank screen or a blank notebook or something, and I've just got nothing. Like, I haven't had inspiration. And it's because if you think about it emotionally, I've been really drained. I've just put myself to a point that it's weird, because you'd think going through what I go through that I could draw from that. But at the same time, I've gotten to where I just don't want to tap that well anymore. Like, I don't want to, I just have no want to draw. And then when I was doing it, I was getting stressed and angry and all this. So it's just like, well, again, why am I doing this? And I kind of walked away, and that was the weirdest thing for me, because, I knew I wanted to be an artist from the time I was a little kid. There was no question. I was always telling people I'm going to be an artist, blah, blah, through junior high. When I got to high school, when they were, you got to take this. And I'm like, I'm going to art school. Like, there was no, you know what I mean? There was zero. I was laser focused. This is what's going to happen. And, I just haven't. Now I'm at that point that it's weird. And, when I walked away, I beat myself up, but, like, you're wasting a gift. Because you hear people all the time, what a waste of talent. So-and-so doesn't play that instrument anymore. They don't sing, or they don't draw like they used to. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? All the people I was in art classes, the big art classes with in high school, most of them are not in the art field. And they were better than me. And it's not that I'm comparing so much. What I'm doing is going, it's okay. Like, they made peace with it. It's okay. They exist. So you can also do this. You can be okay with not being in the art world. The people I went to college with, a bunch of them don't work in the graphic design field, because of where we live partially. It's not a hot, a hotbed of graphic design work here, to get into that work, you generally, not as much now, because, you can do a lot on the, internet and stuff, but, so eventually I started looking at that, and I was comparing myself, but it wasn't in a negative way for the first time. I was finally looking at it and going, they're okay not doing this. They aren't wastes of talent. They're not whatever. Like, even they may beat themselves up for it. Maybe a lot of them have, man, I wish I drew like I used to. That's fine. You can have those feelings, but to me, I was kind of I was so obsessed on it. Like, I have to do this, because for years I was going to be an artist. Like, I have to be an artist. And then I shut that door on myself, and then was like in my head going, well, why'd you do that, dummy? Why would you, and then, I get into that, well, why you did it, because you're not good enough. And, but I've gotten to the point now that I want to find inspiration, because it's something I want to do again, but I have to enjoy it. If it's not something I'm doing for enjoyment's sake, I'm not going to do it right now, because it had set me the wrong way. You know,
Yep.
like, because right now I'm still receptive to drawing or doing some graphic design stuff occasionally. And if I'm not careful, all it takes because of the disease, or, you know, the depression, is one time to where I get that frustration level, and then I'm like, done, you know, and just because you know, things are absolutes instead of going, no, you're not done. You're done for now. You know, like, you just need to walk away for a little bit. Maybe if a week from now you can come back and finish, you know, because it's like, you know, in high school, I spent over 6 months on one drawing I did. But now, if it doesn't go my way in like 20 minutes, I just want to like tear it in half and walk away from it. You know, it's like, so it's just about getting things straight in my head again so that I can hopefully get back to enjoying stuff. And I've had more inspiration over the last couple of years, you know, like the last year, 6 months to a year, especially, but I still have that fear of the blank page. That's just brutal. So
I think you just nailed something for me is that was my old MO, is those extremes.
yeah.
Because there were people that used to be amazed at how I would just like switch, you know, like, oh, I'm a musician. 6 months later, oh, now you're a jet skier. You know, 6 months later, oh, now I'm doing this. You know, and just dropping one thing and picking something else up. And I did it so often that I think it's it's reflexive, and it's not how I want to be. I don't want to be that. I want, like you just said, I need to drop it for now, not for life.
Yeah.
And I keep coming back to the fact that freaking luxury problems.
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah. Like, yeah, because like the difference, and not that we like to compare problems kind of a thing, but it's like the difference in us is I could potentially, if I got my act together, I'm air quoting because I've been told that I need to get my act together with my art, you know. If I got my act together and actually was producing art stuffs, maybe I could find a job with that, you know, that kind of a thing, you know. So it could be something that could, you know, down the road be something that I could, you know, benefit from as far as financially, you know, more so. But it's still the idea that right now it isn't. Right now it would be for hobby purposes or to do something for the podcast or, you know. But again, it's like if I'm not happy doing it, I'm not going to do it because it's going to lead me down a bad path. Because, you know, if I do like, well, I could just get a logo done or I could do a t-shirt design. And it's like, then every time I look at that shirt, I'm going to be like, that was awful. Why did you know, and I'll beat myself up for, you know, because I'll have a negative feeling from it from the first part. So I don't like avoiding it altogether, but I've just kind of gotten to that. And, you know, I think hopefully, excuse me, you know, if I get things back on track with, you know, my therapy and stuff like that, I think down sometime here in the next, you know, 6 months, I want to try to kind of get myself to where maybe I challenge myself with art a little bit to where it's like, hey, you know, like a writer, like, hey, every day you got to draw something. Even if it's an apple, you got to draw something today, you know, kind of a deal, you know. And I know there's all sorts of things online where they do like daily challenges, you know, on Reddit. There's one like all the time, and all sorts of drawing sites that have, you know, where the members will be like, hey, here's what we're drawing today and whatever. But, you know, so maybe it's something like that's what I got to do. I don't know. It's because I really missed that inspiration, you know. And school didn't do it. I thought at one point, well, maybe I'll go back to school because maybe I just need someone to tell me what to draw, you know? And I learned really quickly that if you don't want to do something and someone's telling you to do something, it doesn't really go well. You're just like, I don't want.
I think that's kind of what I'm facing is that I'm telling myself to do something. And,
yeah, right. Yeah.
And then there's also like you brought up the whole vocational aspect of it. And I think I was really starting to kind of hang my hat, so to speak, on that idea. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I really don't, because I've never done it that way.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is also, you know, listening to some podcasts on those producers. And the one guy said, you are worth what you charge.
It's true. I mean, it really is. You know,
and if they don't like what you charge, then they're not your client.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I kind of went, you know, That's true, because I ain't doing no whatever Fiverr thing.
Right. No, because the kind of stuff you do it's way too involved for that kind of thing, unless it was a real simple, like somebody needed something ran through a couple filters or something, you know. And even then, you're more the type to be like, look, I'll just tell you how to do it. You know,
it's true. Actually,
you're just that guy.
All you gotta do is this and this. Yeah, it's true. And then never call me again. Yeah, I am the guy that would come to fix your toilet and say, why don't you watch me over my shoulder and you'll never call me again.
Right.
Because it's this easy.
Right. I mean, to improve the sound on the podcast that I do, you know, you and I talked about, I mean, you spent more than like a few minutes, but you and I just kind of monkeyed around in Audacity trying to figure some stuff out. And then afterwards you were like, yeah, I do this and this. And I wrote it down and, you know, and it made a difference. But you know, rather than like, hey, Henno, will you edit the podcast for me? It was more like, I was like, I want to do it because I don't mind doing it. It's, you know, kind of a thing, but I wouldn't be like, hey, would you do it for me? Because nobody likes editing podcasts. You know, like, I don't think anybody does. If they do, they're crazy. Just crazy. You know, because it's not like cool stuff where you're like putting in sound effects or like if you're doing that, it's one thing. But like just to I'm going to take ums and ahs out. And
it's data entry.
Yeah, I'm going to improve the volume or you know, take away some of the noise, or it's like, you know, like that would have been like somebody, you know, in graphic design just handing you something and basically saying, hey, I just need you to just type this, you know, like it's
exactly.
It's brutal.
Yeah, that's completely it. So it still amazes me how like I can go tra-la-la with my day like it's no big deal, and one thing happens and I'm thrown for the gigantic loop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really not that important, and it's really not that big of a deal.
Right. And for the kids at home, yes, you're right. That is on the distorted thinking worksheet. Catastrophizing. If
you're anticipating the response.
Yeah. Because I'm very guilty of it. That's why when you first were describing it, I was like, oh man, I know exactly what that feels like. As I bet most people who are creative probably do. I think we all probably go through you're not good enough, you know, this and that.
I don't, like I said, I haven't felt this way in a long time. Like I just don't. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it makes me really, really, you know, understand. And, you know, if somebody ever came up to me and just said, you know, and expressed those same feelings to me, I would just have so much compassion for them.
Oh yeah, me too.
It just sucked.
You know, the other another example of this recently was a few days ago. Oz, you know, a friend of I don't know how well you know Oz, but you know, a friend of ours, whatever. He has always wanted to do writing and stuff, and he had a page on Facebook, and he posted this as like a public thing. I'm not like sharing secrets here, but he the other day posted a thing that was like, hey everybody, I took down my writer page because, you know, I'm just going to focus on these aspects of my life because my life is pretty good. And that was kind of me. I feel like I was wasting energy there that it could have been putting into these other things that are definitely positive, you know, and I can see doing that. You know, I can see people doing that too. And like I was saying before, when you see people who used to be in art school with me or whatever, and then I see him doing not art stuff. And the first thing is like, oh, that's too bad. And it's like, is it? They have kids. They're married. They seem really happy. I don't know. Maybe they've got it right. You know, you know, they, you know, and in the end, maybe they still draw. Maybe they draw a little bit, you know, for their own, or maybe they don't. Yeah, it's not everybody does, you know. You know, I mean, heck, Tony from Salty Languages in commercial art with me, you know, and the only like artistic stuff either of us really do most of the time. I can't fully speak for him, but because I don't know 100%, but you know, like we'll do some stuff for the website or, you know, that kind of, that's it though. And we spent a lot of time in art stuff, you know? So, you know, it's, you know, it feels like such a shame to close a door, but sometimes you're not really just closing the door, you know? And again, doors open, doors reopen. You know, like Just
sometimes you need to put a few nails in that thing so that doesn't open up again.
yeah, there are some times that's true, that you're just like, wow, this has to be the end of this. But, I because like realistically with me, I know you went through at one point, you talked about on the show about how you went through and kind of purged some of your equipment, because, you were like, I have a lot of stuff that I don't use or need. And I keep looking over at like my art. I have a chest of drawers that's just full of art supplies. And this isn't all of my art supplies. I have more, over in storage. And and I'm just looking at some of this stuff, like going, I have like a full set of like acrylic paints that I don't even know if I've opened any of them.
Wow.
I've taken the wrapping off of that, but it's like, why don't I put those on eBay and sell them? I can always buy more acrylic paint. It's not horribly expensive. It's not like high end acrylic paint. It's pretty, it's good paint, but it's not like great, like, $8 or $10 a tube paint or something. And, I have stuff like that I could probably go through. And if nothing else, I could look at it and go, look, if I sell this to someone else, maybe they'll get use out of this, whereas for me, eventually, some paints dry up over time. Like I have markers I don't really use that are $3 and $4 a piece markers, that, they dry up. Now those are a little different because I've seen you can, kind of rehydrate them with some alcohol, but, I have stuff like that I've kind of off and on looked at and gone, why do I still have this? Like, I don't use it. Are you going to use it? Because even if I start drawing again, am I going to use that medium? Now, at any point, you never know. Maybe I'll just be inspired to paint, which is not like me. I'm more of I draw. I don't really paint. But I have that because after some of my classes in school, I was like, maybe I'll start painting a little bit. And I haven't, I haven't used any of the paint. So
see, that's literally the stuff that I sold.
Exactly.
Hey, maybe I'll sometime do this. Yeah.
It's like, no, are you doing it now?
Yeah.
No. Gone. Kind of a thing.
Yeah, and if you need it, you can go get it again.
Right, unless I was going to say, unless maybe it's like a rare thing. Like I've got a few like brush pens and stuff that you have to buy from like an import place because they're from Japan, and it isn't that they're horribly expensive, but it's just the idea of getting them again is a little pain in the ass because they sell out frequently, and like those, I'd keep those because you use cartridges to refill them, So it's like I'll keep that kind of stuff, even though I don't really use them, but it's like, I don't want to get rid of those because they were kind of a pain to get, Yeah. But otherwise, it's like you can buy more. I've got tons of, drawing boards for comic books and stuff like that I could probably sell to people. And it's like, even if I don't get a lot out of it, it's like, look, you've held them for 15 years, or 10 years or whatever. It's like you haven't, like, because I was going through something the other day. I forgot what it was, and there was something. What was it? I don't remember. Anyway, it was something I've had for, say, 10 years. And it's like, at what point are you just going to admit you're not going to use this? Like at some point you have to, kind of come to those terms. And, I listened to a podcast, last week at some point. No, it was this past week, actually. No, I don't know. Anyway, within the last few weeks, I don't remember, whatever. But the guy was talking about, having ADD. And he was talking about that part of his ADD is that he can't get rid of things. Like he always amasses things and he doesn't want to get rid of anything because there's a use for it, or I'm going to use it, or I'm going to, and it's a hoarder's mentality, really. Yeah. And he was talking about how after getting into therapy for ADD and stuff like that, how he realized that he had to let go of a lot of these things, and he just started letting go of that kind of stuff that you really don't have a reason to hang on to anymore. Cause like, we both said, like you with your equipment or me with art supplies, if I'm going to use it again, buy another one. Unless it's like I said, rare or horribly expensive. If I had something that was horribly expensive, I might not get rid of it because I would probably go, I don't know if I'll ever have the money for that, Yeah, exactly. But like you said, you were getting rid of stuff because you're like, look, I'm in a place that I'm okay. I could probably afford to buy, so, you got to case by case it a little bit too. And, being 100% stark isn't necessarily the best choice either. There's nothing wrong with, even if I cut the stuff down, say, 25%, I'd put some money in my pocket and get rid of stuff that I don't use.
Yeah.
You know, it's stuff. It's just taking up space.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
I appreciate you sharing the Oz thing, because that is one of the things I have to remind myself that it's really no big deal whatever I decide to do.
Yeah.
It's quite all right, because there's nothing wrong with me setting a priority for myself and what's important to me.
Yeah.
I mean, there should never be anything wrong with that. How much do I talk about that?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Prioritizing yourself and self-care and all that stuff. And if it's not happening, it's not happening. Now, I'm really stoked that this week, you know, I was able to turn pretty quickly on this.
Yes.
You know, that I had the inspiration, but now the main thing is I will, you know, it's a good thing that I'm going out of town, because I'll get back because when I come back, I'll sit down again and I'll see how it feels.
Right.
And I'm just not going to pressure myself, you know, and I do have a couple of projects that I'd like to do that aren't for me, but I really want to do them.
Yeah.
You know, it is something I want to do. I'll get something out of it. So, you know, I'm looking forward to that, and I'll do that. But the main thing is it's weird. There's the parts of my personality that just feel like if you get down in a hole, you gotta keep digging until you get out of it.
Right. It's funny how that
makes
works.
No sense.
Yeah. And generally, all you're doing is covering yourself with dirt.
That's it.
You're just throwing it over your shoulder, and it's not really. Yeah. Yeah. There's just
anyhow. Thank you for letting me. Up and out that, and also to interact, because you just gave me things that I needed to hear, and I appreciate it.
Well, it's another aspect of that you're not alone thing. You know, like I said, we're creatives. We're just creatives in different fields. But you and I, as we've known from various talks we've had, there's every parallel. You know, like even though yours music and mine's art, it's everything parallels with this stuff. And, you know, and same with Oz, you know, I saw people posting on his Facebook like, oh, that's too bad. And he goes, no, it's really not. Like, you know, he's like, I'm happy, you know, and it's like, that's the key. That's it. If, you know, and at any time he can write, you know, at any time he can start again. He can pull up, you know, whatever on his laptop or a pad and pencil or whatever and just start, you know. That's the way I felt about art. At any time I could grab a piece of paper and anything I want to draw with or paint with or whatever and just start again.
That's it.
You know, and it's so you know, that's why when I finally got to that point, I was like, I just got to quit beating myself up, because I do it enough with other stuff. This is one I can easily throw off, you know, and part of it too, and I don't know if you do this, is like, and you probably do to some extent, but like I identified myself as an artist, you know, because for years I took all the art classes, then I went into art school or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, so I really identified as an artist. And then when it wasn't there, part of that becomes like, well, who am I if I'm not an artist?
Yeah.
It's a really scary thing, because that's really like, I mean, that's seriously like just stripping your clothes off and standing there going, you know,
yeah,
like, wow, this wind
What's
is
left?
really cold. You know, so that's why, like I said, I don't know if you've done that or not, but that was something I know I definitely did. And it made it really hard for a long time, because it felt like I was gonna, like I was shedding part of who I am, you know? When that isn't the case. It's what I was shedding is who I was, you know, and who I am is not that same person at this point, you know?
Yeah. Some of it reminds me of that idea of mourning the loss of what could have been.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. These are my hopes and dreams that are now no longer here. You know, and now I will lament this.
Yeah. It's so true, though. I mean, it is
to the point where somebody needs to smack me upside the head.
Yeah, seriously,
freaking over yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
that's what,
man.
like you said. You know, we're sitting here, and you know, it's something that in this forest feels like a big problem. But once we get outside of this forest, people are like, really? This is what you're griping about?
Yeah. And that's, and I
Such a
reminded
luxury.
myself of, I heard some story on, whatever it was, a radio program, and they were in some village where basically it was some sort of immigrants were going from one country to another, and where they're ending up, there's just nothing there. And this is just in the poorest of the poorest of the poor. And so who's taking care of everybody is a local church. I think this is in Africa somewhere.
Yeah.
And so they're getting it. There's no government to help them. It's all through this church. And if you send money to the church, they're gonna, basically it's not even quote unquote a church. It's some dude who probably has a shack that he calls a church, and he cares for the community.
Yeah.
And I heard the interview, and he was talking about what the people, and they're starving, and you get the distended bellies of the kids and all this stuff. And I'm like, I need to send them some money.
Yeah. It's
Now I didn't,
right.
because I really don't have it right now, but I sat there, I'm like, yeah, hold on a second.
Yep.
That's a little perspective I can handle in my life that I need to have.
Yeah. Well, and
wow.
we said that, and as always, we always do point out that, it always could be worse. Like, no matter what you're going through, there's generally something that could be worse. But of course, we always keep sight of just because it could be worse doesn't mean that it isn't bad.
Yes.
But you and I both recognize that it's only bad because we let it be bad. It isn't bad to anybody else. Like, I can't imagine anyone else listening to you talk about the, maybe giving up paid stuff and going, oh, that poor guy.
Exactly.
Like, no, like, not even the tiniest violin is, it's like, it's, and same with mine is, it's really, a lot of it is just, we manifested it ourselves, and we're, and we know, we're very aware of it, but
it's one of our,
hyper aware of it even.
I was just going to say that hyper awareness is, and that's one of those gifts that is not always a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I want to keep it being a gift. And not a negative in my life.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a liability. I want it to be, a positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's really the key. And if the goal is for us to find contentment or be happy-ish or whatever it is that we're searching for, and it's like, why am I doing something to where it's the equivalent of just, as we mentioned, what was it, a couple weeks ago, just running headfirst into a wall over and over and over. At some point you got to go, I got to quit this because this headache is just not worth it. And, like I said, even if it isn't permanent, retreat is not the same as a loss. Many times retreat is a regathering, and it's a fine tactic, especially when it's not in a movie or a TV show.
Yeah.
Like in real life, retreat is many times a good thing.
Yeah. And we're not talking about the hordes here.
Yeah, true. That'd be a whole different story. But
yeah. Well, now that I've taken up a podcast worth of material.
Yeah. Well,
how's your week?
What it actually did was, we were kind of like the topic we were going to talk about. It was kind of like, it's something to throw in there. And this gave us like an organic conversation, so, and very relevant to both of us. And I can't imagine other people wouldn't identify with it. Cause like I said, just about everybody that's creative has probably gone through, not just creative, just everybody's probably gone through this to some extent. It's something they think they're decent at or whatever,
Yeah. And we are talking about a podcast community too. People,
yeah,
it's like, how many times we've been like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even
I didn't even think about it either until just now.
Right. It's weird though. I have not had that feeling really with the podcast.
Neither have I.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've not, from minute one, I think it was how it was approached though. From minute one, when Tony and I started Salty Language, we were like, we're doing this for us. Like,
Yeah, and that's it.
We're doing this because people told us they liked our conversations. So this allows us to give people, they can listen whenever they want to. And if they come along for the ride, awesome. If they don't, okay. You know, like, we're still going to be friends. We're still going to have ridiculous conversations because that's what him and I do. And that's the end of it. You know, the difference will be if we see numbers at a certain point, we'll go, why are we bothering to pay server fees? And, you know,
that's the difference.
There's the difference. And that's pretty much it. So, and, but other than that, I really haven't. There's not really been a time to where I'm like, why are we, you know, and we had low numbers, like, you know, most podcasts do out of the gate. And we both were just like, meh, you know, and just keep going.
You know, now that we're talking about this out loud, you're right. I don't think I will ever sit there and say, I suck. I'm worthless. Why do I keep doing this?
Yeah.
I will never do that with a podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the right attitude I need to take to music.
Yeah.
What is it about, you know, well, I guess it's the same thing of when I start, and I think I keep comparing this to, you know, I will compare podcast to music to starting a band for the rest of my freaking life because it's so the crossover.
Yep.
I have not cared if I played in front of two people. Mm-hmm. I never have because I had a great time on stage.
Well, like I was going to ask the question, you know, and you hear this asked all the time, which would you rather be? Would you rather be the band that sells millions and millions of copies of their album, or would you rather be the one who keeps creative control and blah, blah, blah? But if you twist the question a little bit, it's like, which is more successful? The band who plays for 50 people but always puts out what they want to put out, or the one where they constantly are getting notes on their music and have to change things and work within blah, blah, but they make all the money in the world, you know? Yeah. I don't know. You could argue either way, I think, and be right.
Yeah.
You know?
It's that's what it comes down to is what would bring you joy and happiness.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that and I think some of the differences is there's really not a whole lot of skill per se to this, I guess.
Podcasting, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's some to the like we talked about editing.
Yeah.
You know,
and there are some that are like, you know, the ones where they're the like scripted drama type ones, and, you know, where they're, you know, really writing a story or writing skits, or, you know, there's elements of that there's definitely, you know, that kind of thing, where most of the ones we do, we're having conversations. So
yeah, and it all comes down to pure passion,
mm-hmm.
and so I think that's where I'm kind of running into the wall is that I'm running into skill issues, and you know, maybe that's not the place I need to be. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. I'm just gonna keep a really open mind right now.
Yeah. And that's the best way to do it, right? It's kind of, you know, it's what we talk about all the time with stuff. So
yeah. And just if it's not working, then just walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's another day. And, yeah.
Yeah. So you were asking me, you said, you know, that, you know, now that you've taken up a whole podcast or whatever, you know, like I was going to say, like it's weird, for me this past week, 'cause I've been trying to get, you know, my refills on my medicine, and it just seems like I've gone to the doctor's office now 3 times and have walked away empty-handed, because, you know, again, they don't want to interrupt therapy, or my doctor's not there, or the one time I walked in and the person who's working, I went in today, and because they told me on the phone, someone told me that I could pick it up till like 8. I went in at like 5:30, and my doctor was already gone. And the woman working the front was like, I'm not authorized to give out medicine, because she's a clerk, you know?
Yeah.
She can't give, and I'm like, come on. And luckily my doctor's office is just right up the street. It's not, but it's still the idea that it's like, I came home and I was telling my mom, I was like, again, it isn't so much that I think the world should like revolve around people with anxiety, depression, mental illness, but when you know someone has something, there should be a level of awareness, especially from a doctor's office, you know, to help facilitate. And okay,
yeah,
it's most people that have this kind of mental illness give up really easy. Luckily, I'm I'm at that point that I'm like, no, I'm going to do, like, I'm laser focused on, I want to get better. I want these things. But I could see somebody easily going, again, you know what? I'm not even going to bother. And it'd be so easy for this to happen. And this would be so easy to prevent. Like, this could get resolved. And I don't know, like, again, you know, I've mentioned before, inefficiency just irritates me to no end. And this is very inefficient and stuff. And I didn't like go off on the woman that was there. I was, you know, perfectly friendly to her, but I was like, you guys really need to revise how this is done. Because, you know, this is the third time I've come in here. So first of all, it's inconvenient. Second of all, I have anxiety and depression. I don't get out of bed all the time.
Yeah.
Now I have to fight against myself to get out of bed because it's like, you have to go get your medicine. You know, now I'm drawing lines like, well, I don't feel like it today. I put it off 3 days. Then I go and it's, you know, like there needs to be some way that this can get resolved. I don't know what it is, whether it's a delivery service that I could schedule or somewhere I could pick it up, or, you know, it's a real pain in the butt though. And it's frustrating because I want to get better. I'm trying to be positive and do this, but I'm running up against something that is clearly working in the opposite direction for me, you know, because I can't get the medicine that I need, you know, and so it's been really, really frustrating. Like, I've tried really hard to not be a jerk about it and whatever, but I like when she told me that, I stood there and I closed my eyes and I just went, and then I looked at her and I was like, this is the third time I've come in to get my medicine. And I was like, I'm out of this. You're not supposed to be out of your, and part of it's my fault, and I fully accept the parts of my procrastination. But the other part of it is not my fault. And they know I'm out. They know I need it. And it's like, there's no urgency on their end. That really is irritating, you know, and that makes me go, it stinks because I go there because, you know, insurance covers it, you know, like if I go somewhere else, it's a much longer car ride or whatever. So it's like, I kind of have to go there. You know, if there was another place really close, I'd be at a new doctor, you know, like I'd just be like, screw, I'm done with this. I'm tired of these. It doesn't feel like you're trying to help me, you know? So I don't know. Nothing's really going to change, and I fully know that, and that's part of why I don't go off or really get mad at the people, because they're not going to change their policies. They're going to do what they do because it's worked for years and years and years, and not enough people gripe, you know? So again, as we pointed out in the past, the main reason I want to bring all this up is if you're going to the doctor and you're not getting the results that you want, be vocal about it, because the more people are vocal, the more likely there will be changes. If you stay quiet, nothing will change. So I just wanted to soapbox a little on that. So, and in the meantime, I've been having really bad nightmares this last week.
Really?
Yeah. And the last time I had them was on one of the antidepressants I was on was kind of causing them, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, I've been having some like those, like they're like nightmares to where it's like, I'm stuck in a building and then it's dark and there's no exits, you know, kind of a thing. And I'm, you know, if it were possible to wake up yelling, I probably would be, you know, because they're that kind of a jarring. And it's like, man, I don't know what is causing. It's not like I'm watching spooky movies before bed or anything like that. And plus those things I've never really been bugged by that anyway, but I don't know what is doing it. There must really be something in my head that is just needing to get out of there or something. I don't know. But you know, I had one the other night where, you know, somebody, it was basically like, it was in my head, it was like being in a relationship kind of a thing. And they were just telling me, you know, why I wasn't enough. Like they were going through leaving me basically. There was no face on the person, but it was in my head. It was basically my head telling me you're not good enough. And it's like, look, sleep is the only reprieve I have from this stuff. I really don't, you know, it can, you know, I don't really need it there too, but, But yeah, I don't know what it is, but I've really, the last week and a half, I've really been having them again. Like, of the last, since we recorded last, of those, say, 7 days, 6 days, whatever it's been, probably all but one I've had this.
Wow.
And it's weird. And it's like, I'm watching like Family Guy before I go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm listening to podcasts, or music. I'm not putting anything, I'm trying to not put anything negative out into my head before I go to bed, and this is still coming out. It's brutal. So I don't know. The only thing I can think of is maybe that it's a withdrawal symptom.
That's what I was going to ask, if that's from coming off the medicine, if that's.
Yeah. It's, cause that's the only thing I can think of, is that maybe my brain's kind of, where you have that floor. Now there's like a free fall, and maybe my brain's like, wee, and just, hey, what's over here? Let's see what's going on. Like, nah. So yeah, it's odd, and it stinks because you wake up from them and then it's like, I don't want to go back to sleep,
Oh yeah. I have those types of dreams a lot.
Oh man, they're awful.
And they are. I have my whole life. I've had that need to do something, can't do it. Need to communicate with somebody, can't, or there's somebody that is just tearing you down every step of the way.
Yeah. I was being, like, in the one last night, I was being chased by someone.
Oh, that's God, I have chase ones too.
And there
were
no exits. Like, I went into a room, like there was a door, I opened the door and go into this room and there's nothing, no windows, no doors, no nothing else. I go back out, that door's gone. It was, like that kind of a thing. And basically, the whole time, it just basically in your head, it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yep.
And that's when I wake up, is that it's basically completely enclosed on me. And then I freak out, and I'm sitting there in bed and I'm just like, well, grab the iPad. Cause like, I ain't going back to sleep anytime soon. So
yeah.
And I had been asleep for about 3 hours, it wasn't even like I had slept all, I was just like, man. And so I'm tired and I could still feel that exhaustion of, you need to go back to bed. Like, physically, I probably could have gone back to sleep, but I did not want to go back to sleep, So, yeah.
Well, for anybody that's into looking at dreams and what they mean, you could sit there and say, okay, here you are trying to do the best you can for your mental health, and you are being thwarted every step of the way right now.
Yeah. Now,
that
is what the good sign is, that life is throwing barrels at me and I'm jumping over them. I'm not letting them trip me up to this point, and I'm not catastrophizing. I'm not immediately going to, like, of course, like, it's frustrating because it is frustrating. Somebody who would rank, perfectly healthy, would be frustrated by this. If they were trying to get a medicine they needed and went 3 times, they'd be mad, so that's a normal, that's a perfectly justifiable reaction. I'm just choosing not to be that way because I don't want to, I'm not going to vent on someone that isn't, first of all, they're not the one that made the policy.
Yeah.
And second of all, they can't enact change. So yelling at them, all it's going to do is make me an asshole. Pardon my language. That's all it does. It doesn't do anything else other than just make me the jerk,
Yeah.
So
it's true.
It's not worth it. So when I hear those, there's my win for the week, I guess, is when I catch that stuff, like we always point out, when you catch that and you're like, I've grown. And even if it's not a mental illness growth there, just as a person, I've grown, because 5 years ago, oh man, I would have went off on her. I mean, I would have been like, I want to talk to your manager, and I mean, it would not have ended until I got what I wanted, or but in this time I was like, she can't do anything. There's nothing she can do. They can send somebody else out. They aren't going to be able to do anything because it makes sense. It's a medicine and it's a control, it's an antidepressant. So they're kind of controlled.
Yep.
You have to have certain certification probably to dispense them. So I understand, there's nothing they can do. So I'm just going to not be a jerk. I'm going to go back tomorrow, and tomorrow I might be a jerk.
But that's tomorrow.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, I don't want to walk out of there tomorrow without it, because 4 times is really ridiculous. So You know,
you just said that, you know, it's not mental health growth, but it is, because to me, we don't get to grow as a person until we grow out of some of those habits.
Yeah.
And those places we've become comfortable, and those, you know, and that you have to clear away a little bit of the crazy to start working on your personality.
It's true. Yeah.
Is basically it. And so you clearly have.
Yeah.
If you're seeing, you know, change in who you are.
Yeah. And, you know, I've never liked being that guy who was short-tempered and just yelled at people for, you know, no reason at times. And, you know, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of people I've yelled at in my life that they deserved it. I mean, I won't change the way I look at that, but there's been a lot that I've yelled at and been like, I really could have handled that a lot better. Again, and a lot of it ends up being customer service reps, because they're easy to yell at because they're in front of you. The people who you're actually mad at are not in front of you.
It's true.
You know, and that's the unfortunate. And I've been on both sides of that counter. I've worked customer service. I've been yelled at. And that's why, another reason why over the years I try really hard to not be too critical of somebody working those jobs, you know, because I know what it's like being on that other side. And, you know, sometimes no matter what you do, it isn't right, you know?
Yeah. Because
that person is, you're just their outlet for the day. Some days you're their drum stool, you know?
There's marks on the floor where I tore the rubber off.
Oh, Henno.
That's the worst part, is I have to get reminded of the temper tantrum.
Yeah. You know, I always, not that I ever want any of us, you, me, or Jen, to go through these things, you know, but I think it's good that we're able to come on here and share that as well, because it really shows how you can be moving along really well, and then, you know, it's like, oh boy, train wreck, you know, and then it's like, oh, you know, I think I've got things kind of back on train wreck, you know, but it shows that, you know, that getting back up, and that we're not just, oh, here's things we can read to people. These are things we're trying to apply ourselves and show that it's not easy, you know, that we understand that there's work, and, you know, sometimes you just need a good talking to, I can't even talk. Sometimes you need a good talking to, says the guy who can't talk.
Well, I'd like to, and I don't know if any of this is true, but I'm just going to throw it out there anyway. I would rather be the person that lets this stuff out, even if it is a little, you know, poor me, but I didn't pour myself another drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll take that victory.
Yep.
I let it out, and in less than a week, it's already kind of settled itself.
Yeah.
You know, versus being people that I perceive in this world that never have these things, and then all of a sudden explosion happens.
Yeah. I agree
where they bottle it all in, and they're just living with frustration.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes out super sideways.
Right.
So,
and it's also, you know, there's an element of, it's kind of weird, because you talk about that and having like a tantrum or a breakdown, as we talked about last week, you know, sometimes you just need to, but at the same time, you also show that you didn't, even though in the moment you catastrophized, essentially, like this is the worst thing ever kind of a deal.
Yep.
But this last week shows that you didn't stay there. You didn't allow it to snowball. You didn't roll into more and more and more. And that's why, again, recognizing stuff we talked about on the distorted thinking worksheets and stuff, that's why I always bring those up and hammer them home, because even if, like, there's times where I'm like, I'll have a situation like you were talking about, and I'll recognize it, be like, I know I'm catastrophizing here, but I'm just going to do it. You know, I'm just going to, sometimes, you know, it's like being sad. It's like, sometimes you just have to be sad. I actually, I saw something, it was from, Louis C.K. was on, Conan. And it's a clip from that where he was talking about how before, when he would feel bouts of sadness from depression, he would pick his phone up to distract him. And then one day he's like, you know what? I was just like, maybe don't pick up the phone. And he's like, I just let it wash over me. And he goes, and then out of that, he's like, I had positive emotion and all this. And he's like, sometimes you just kind of got to sit in the sad for a little bit. And I was like, yes, you do. The key, like I said, with me, sometimes it's like this stuff happens. And if I can recognize that I've done it, like, hey, my thinking's distorted right now. This isn't right. Doesn't necessarily mean that right now I'm going to make that change. But going forward, I'm going to try to be aware of it so that, because you're not going to be able to make changes every time. Sometimes you're just not mentally strong enough. You know, sometimes it's just a bad day and it's going to be a bad day and that's okay. You know, and you go, I'm being a jerk right now. I'm throwing things, I'm destroying things and all this, but oh well, you know, tomorrow I won't be a jerk and destroy things or I'll try not to, I should, you know. So
yeah, it's kind of like when I talk about being in the moment, I also believe that you got to feel what you're feeling.
Yeah.
I've talked about that a lot. You know, if you got a broken heart, you need to accept the fact that right now you got a broken heart and it's human. You're supposed to have one. Or if you know, if you're and it's usually negative emotions that we're trying to avoid. But the idea being is that you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And based on what happened this week, I was exactly where I was supposed to be on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see any other way of looking at it.
Yeah.
That I needed to go through that for some reason.
Right. And you never know, maybe down the road, maybe like we talked last week with breakdowns, is sometimes the breakdown is the springboard to the positive stuff,
That's
know?
It. Yep.
And that's kind of what Louis was saying too, is that, he's, that after you have these profound sadnesses sometimes, then you can really go, I'm okay. Like I made it. Like I just went through a really rough patch, but I made it. And then you can go, and then maybe you gain some confidence from realizing that even when you have those moments, the world didn't
I can get through them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's why, like I said, recognizing that you're catastrophizing, but also not letting it engulf you is, I mean, I'll tell you, I think when you get to those levels of stuff, that's when you're like next level work. You're not just recognizing, you're not just this and this, but when you're recognizing and kind of applying at the same time, that's how you're really doing the work right, And even if you've been doing it for a while, you still fall backwards, but you're like, hey, I know right now I am making this out to be the worst thing in the world, but I know it isn't, but it's just how it feels. And like you said, you just got to feel that way. And then the next day you go, I'm all right.
I think I have a decent goal to work for, which is walk away sooner.
I'll agree with you on that one. I'm guilty of that myself, of sticking around a little too long. I really
need to work on that one.
Yeah.
Is walk away and find something else that brings you joy at that moment.
Yeah. Like I said with Jen, when she used to be like, put that down and go do this, because otherwise it was pretty much, like rack 'em, frack 'em, and she's like, all right, you need to stop. You need to go do something else to, and it's like, yeah, I know, and then I'd listen, and generally the truth is that after a while it's like, all right, I've calmed down. I'm okay now. And now
I'm better now.
Yeah. Like, okay, fine. Like, I'm still, like, it's like, I'm still not looking over at the artwork. It's like, I'm still not talking to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we're still fighting.
Oh my God, it feels like that sometimes.
Right?
It really does.
It really does. So, all right, well, we should probably wrap up. We're about an hour and 20 here, so. I'll try to find the Louis C.K. bit on sadness that I found and see if I can, put a link for a video or something in there. Like we said earlier, with the music requests, or music suggestions or whatever, let us know, like, what you use to get through bad times, or what you use sometimes to just sit in it, or, whatever it is. Like music that, like a song that you're really drawn to for, to I don't know how to word it, because I don't want to say like alter your mood, but
well, it kind of is as a mood enhancer or as a mood changer. I mean, that's
true.
How we use music.
Yeah, that's true. So
augmentation.
Yeah. Now we're just throwing words out there.
Fancy words there.
Yeah.
Mr. Clever from Idaho.
I know, right? All you Idahoans in your book learning. Anyway, but yeah, you know,
3-syllable wording.
That makes sense. Yeah, you know, you can send those suggestions to us at the Crazy Life Podcast at Outlook.com. Or you can, you could send them to our Twitter, but, just email them in, or if you post them on the Facebook group would be a great place to post them.
Yeah.
Which can be found at facebook.com/groups/Crazy Life Podcast. You can also check our website out at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. Jen can be found on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G, just to remind you. Henno, what about you?
Find me on Twitter at Ida Henno, and always find me on Facebook doing my usual, sometimes funny, sometimes political.
This is true. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can also follow the show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where we post when new episodes go up. Although you should already know that because you've already subscribed like good boys and girls. And while you're on iTunes, if you could give us a review. I've noticed I keep looking. All I see is one review. Come on, people.
I almost started talking about the other way you do reviews on the other show.
Oh, no. That's a different story. But if you get time, please, leave us a review. Because it helps us get more visible in the iTunes algorithms and whatnot. So it, helps us out quite a bit. And, but if you can't, we understand. We're not going to pressure you too much this time. Let's see. If you want to check out the other podcast I'm part of, which is Salty Language, it's on Twitter at salty_language, or you can check us out at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work. So just, fair warning. You can also find, we're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. And also, all of our shows are now available on, the audio from them is on YouTube. So go check that out. And I'm actually thinking about maybe doing something a little, occasionally, instead of doing like a written blog, maybe I'll sit down and do quick video logs from time to time, to post up there. Maybe it'll be about like a topic of the show or something like that. But, so go check us out on the YouTubes, I guess. And, I think that's all the plugs there. So then I'll also point out that we're not doctors, therapists, or trained professionals, and the show should not be, you should, don't use the show as a replacement for therapy. If you need help, please seek out a professional, to help you, with what's going on. And then lastly, if you're if you have thoughts of suicide, or you're having ideations or planning, please tell someone in your support group, tell your doctor, your therapist, call 911, tell them you're having a mental health emergency if you're thinking of acting on it, or call the suicide prevention hotline number. Or over at the Facebook group, we've got a list of different sites that can, help with that, as well as sites, that can help you if you need therapy. Even if money is a concern. I can't think of the name of the site off the top of my head. But anyway, they can set you up with therapists that have like sliding scales or work within your financial boundaries. So, definitely go check that out, if you need the help. It's out there. So, just don't act on the suicidal thoughts and stuff. There's definitely help, and you're not alone. Right. I think that's everything, right, Henno?
I think so.
All right. You want to take us out of here then?
Yeah, keep wiggling those toes and keep breathing.